going to give kind of a, I'm not going to give a background, but I'm going to kind of go over the ground rules. We didn't have the key person that we asked from the Bothell No side to show up for the debate. So we're going to do sort of a question and answer. However, Bothell No people are welcome here as well. I want to make sure that everyone gets their chance to have their say. To make sure that we do that, I'm going to ask people to raise their hand and be quiet. And what I will do is I will give you the mic and give you a chance to ask your question, and people can answer it. We could stick with that question. If people have a disagreement, they can let me know, and I can give them the mic as well. But our main thing is to ask a question and have us answer it. Is there anyone here, by the way, from the no side who might like to answer questions? Okay, well, it's worth a shot. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. Can one of you give us a background as far as why are we doing this again?
Sure. Is this on or no?
No, looks like not.
I'll give you the microphone.
All right. My name is Mark Lamb. I'm the mayor of the city of Bothell, Washington, and I just wanted to thank you for coming here tonight. I also wanted to provide a couple of background statements because I've had some questions and some folks have sent me emails about what we're doing here tonight. And some people said, well, you're the mayor of the city of Bothell, why would you be here? Just to be clear, this isn't an event that is paid for or sponsored by the city of Bothell. This is not a city of Bothell event. This was originally intended to be a debate between the no and the yes campaigns about the annexation issue. And actually, it was one of the folks from the no campaign who said, I think it would be more helpful for people to understand the annexation issue if policymakers were involved in that. And so at that time, I anticipated that this was going to be a debate, and I accepted that challenge or offer to come in and answer people's questions and participate in that dialogue. So just to be clear, this is a question and answer period, and that's why I'm here tonight as the mayor of the city of Bothell. The background of annexation has to go back really to our state's growth management law. And this is a little bit dry, but cities in Washington state are supposed to be the provider of municipal urban services. That means like police, fire, your street sweeping, your street cleaning, your snow plowing. The state of Washington in the early 1990s passed something called the Growth Management Act, and they told counties and cities that they needed to draw lines around their current cities. And they had to come into an agreement with neighboring cities, which over the past several decades the city of Bothell has done. The current boundaries of Bothell are ones that include the area that right now has a choice to vote for annexation. Myself, I live in the Snohomish County side of Bothell. I think almost everyone here knows Bothell is about half in King County and half in Snohomish County. The area that I live in was annexed into the city of Bothell in the early 1990s. Just for the record, I'm an Alderwood water customer. The city of Bothell has nothing to do with the provision of my water or sewer services, and nobody who is annexed into the city of Bothell from the Snohomish County side has to hook up to sewer if they're currently on septic. The issue then 2 years ago was a lot of your neighbors and friends in this area, over 1,000 people, have the right under Washington state law to petition to come into a city. And that's what they did. They went door to door and talked to people, talked to neighbors and friends, and said, we believe the best course of action for us as a community is to be part of the city of Bothell. And they took their petition to the city council, and we agreed to accept it. I think it's a fundamental principle of democracy that people in a country have the right to petition their leaders for action, and they have a right to petition their leaders for the kind of government that they would like to live under. That's exactly what happened in this case. We took that petition from the people and we went up to the to the Boundary Review Board. Every county in Washington state that's governed by the Growth Management Act has a Boundary Review Board that decides whether annexations are appropriate and well-planned or not appropriate and not ready to go to the voters. At that time, the Boundary Review Board heard from all of the fire districts, heard from Snohomish County, and heard from the city of Bothell, as well as the citizens who had that petition. And the Boundary Review Board rejected it at that time and said, this isn't ready. We then went back as a city and said, we're going to do some work. We're going to talk to people, and we're going to try to figure out whether or not this could be a better proposal. And we took it back to the Boundary Review Board last year. all of the interested parties had an opportunity to be heard: citizens, fire districts, the county, the city. And at that time, the Boundary Review Board, which is a nonpartisan board that is charged under Washington state law with evaluating annexation proposals, unanimously approved that proposal. That election, I think as most of you know, then went forward to the ballot. And last November, voters in this area had an opportunity to vote either to yes or no in annexation. And the annexation vote last November lost. It was about a 200 vote swing. Either way would have changed it, but there's no question about it. Annexation did not pass, or we wouldn't be here this evening. Following that election, very shortly, there was an announcement by Fire District 1, actually that week, about 2 days later, that the fire district faced a $3 million deficit and that 9 positions were being eliminated. There was then another announcement later in January that 4 firefighters in that district were essentially being given pink slips, had been notified that they would be laid off. We received contact from many people in the annexation area, including some of the people who are here tonight, who said that was very important material information that they didn't have when they cast their votes. That they were told last November that the city of Bothell was in a precarious financial position, that the fire districts were strong, and that the fire districts had an opportunity to bring things together. And they said if we had known that, we would not have voted the way we did. We would have voted to join the city of Bothell had we known what the genuine financial situation was. So those people then came to the city council, talked to us, wrote a letter to us, emailed and communicated with us and said, we don't believe that an annexation election is something that is voted on once and then is decided for all of time. That if you vote once, especially if there's inaccurate information and material information that's withheld from the voters, that shouldn't be the deciding question. I'm an elected official, I think as everybody here knows. Every 4 years I stand for election before the people. Every 2 years I stand before my colleagues on the council for election as mayor. The idea that a new election, and I've heard this thrown about, somehow is anti-democratic to me fundamentally misunderstands the nature of democracy. There is nothing in our law that suggests that annexation elections are permanent and that one can never revisit the question. I think that's especially true when information isn't made available to the voters. Another important point about that is that it's very true that other elections are run again. Fire District 7, for example, had a levy that didn't pass the first time, and they went out and they gave voters additional information, and voters passed the levy the second time. But I think the critical thing and the critical takeaway of kind of how we come here tonight is that this is something that your neighbors, your friends, over 1,000 people in this area asked for. This is something, this entire annexation process began not with the city of Bothell, but with neighbors going door to door and gathering petitions because they wanted to have an election. They wanted to have a choice to become part of the city of Bothell. And it was those neighbors that led to this election. It was not the city of Bothell that led to this election. It was those neighbors who petitioned us again after November and said, what happened in November was wrong. An election shouldn't be held where material information is withheld from the voters until after the election. We want an election where everybody has all the facts that are on the table. And I think the question now that is before the voters is we now have more information. You guys have an opportunity to ask questions. And that's a big purpose of why I'm here tonight is I want, as mayor, I'm very accessible to the people who live in the city of Bothell. People can call me, people talk to me when their streets aren't plowed, I hear about it. And I wanted to take this opportunity tonight to hear from you and to have an opportunity for you to ask questions about annexation and directly question and directly participate with the mayor of the city of Bothell. But I think it's also important that you hear from the people who were part of this process and the people who generated this process. And the person to my left, Tom Turner, is one of those citizens who both initially petitioned the city of Bothell to become part of it and then again requested after last November's election that misstatements and inaccurate information not be allowed to stand. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Thank you, Mary Lam. I've lived in the annexation area for about 8 years with my wife, Barb, and we became involved with this effort last year, I'm going to say in July or August, probably shortly after we signed the petition. And we studied the pros and cons and felt like, gee, the benefits of annexation are so compelling that we wanted to encourage our neighbors to support the annexation effort as well. Excuse me. So we went door to door a little bit and put up a few signs and so forth, and sort of supported the effort in whatever ways we could. But we were kind of taken aback when we were met with the kind of opposition that we were met with, and as a result of the failure of the vote, I was very disappointed, because I felt like, you know, if folks had been able to make up their minds based on the merits of the argument, that'd be one thing. But most of us felt, I'll just say, speaking for myself, I felt very much like the argument was mischaracterized so much that when the vote did fail, we felt like, you know, well, we want to go back and ask the city of Bothell to give us another chance to set the record straight. So that's basically kind of my follow-up to what Mayor Lamb just said. But at any rate, I think this is, like, as you said, this is an opportunity for us to sort of continue that process of setting the record straight and give everybody an opportunity, or everybody that's here anyway, an opportunity to ask the kind of questions that might be on your mind. So
I think just to follow up on what Tom said, I mean, there may be people who say, well, I'd like an example of that. What I have in front of me is a mail piece that some of you may have received, and there's a Monopoly card on one side, and there's another thing on the back side, and it says no agreement to keep local fire station 73 open. Today, this morning, I was pleased to announce that we have reached an agreement with Fire District 7, both to secure firefighter jobs and to keep Fire Station 73 open. This postcard is no longer true, if it ever was true. So I think it's important that and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this tonight, was I wanted to share that news with the people here, that Bothell has worked very, very collaboratively with other governments. We have an interlocal agreement with Snohomish County to cover how we'll deal with annexation after this. We have an interlocal agreement with Snohomish Fire District 10, where the city of Bothell currently provides fire service to that. Our firefighters are in Fire District 10. They are the firefighters for Fire District 10. Fire District 10 pays the city of Bothell to have those firefighters there. And now we have an agreement with Fire District 7 that will keep Station 73 open. We'll actually be helping Fire District 7 by helping them to serve part of the annexation area that is not part of their Fire District 7 area that's outside of the annexation area. So we in Bothell are working together with the citizens who made this petition in the first place, have really endeavored to work hard and to try to be a good partner with other local governments, and we're working hard to do that as well. What I can say too is that I've heard a number of people say during this that, well, you know what, Bothell is just going to try again, or, you know, you can always say yes later. And that isn't the case. In the city of Bothell, we have to make decisions about what our city is going to look like. We have to make very long-range plans. I felt as mayor, this second election was a really extraordinary set of circumstances where I've been involved in politics for over 20 years. There was really a gap in information between what the voters had when they voted and what actually was going on behind the scenes and was revealed after the election. But this isn't something that will go on in perpetuity. This is something where you have a choice of what kind of government you're going to live under. And the fire district, particularly Fire District 1, has made it pretty clear that the kind of government they're moving towards is what's called a regional fire authority. A regional fire authority is a larger service delivery model that has the power to impose benefit charges. It is a larger regional government. It would cover about 350,000 people in this case. And that is an option. That's what the fire districts are moving towards. The city of Bothell is a smaller local government with a lower tax burden than you currently have in the annexation area. So the issue I think it's really important for people to understand that this is not a choice between the way things are right now and moving into the city of Bothell. The form of government that you have is going to change. It's simply a matter of whether it changes by becoming part of a small local city or whether you become part of a larger regional government. And that's the choice that's in front of people in this election.
So I think we're ready to take some questions if there are some, huh?
Good. So if people raise your hands, I'll ask you to raise it and then raise it again when I get to somebody. So I'll start and we'll work my way back. Go ahead and stand up. Are the citizen?
Hi, my name is Todd Hodgen, and about 11 years ago there were some meetings up here on what I call the Canyon Park Plateau about some of the development work that was going on, and there were some meetings at Snohomish County. So it's sad that this vote has come down to, fire districts and discussion of fires, because it's really a lot more than that. So I have a question really for the city of Bothell. While 39th was being developed, every home that was built, there was $1,400 set aside for the development of parks. All that funding went to Marysville, Snohomish, all the cities that were able to go in and lobby, and we had no representation. So we lost millions of dollars for the development of parks, and I'm just curious, does the city of Bothell have any long-term plans for development of parks in our area, for becoming involved in getting funding from Snohomish County for joint development of parks and trying to get back some of the millions of dollars that as homeowners we gave up here, and really is a critical part of becoming a part of your community, much more so than this discussion that, unfortunately the firemen have brought up and have little consequence to us.
Well, thanks so much for that question. I really appreciate it. One of the benefits of being part of a city is that the tax dollars that are collected locally are kept locally. And while we're not in a position, unfortunately, to claw back monies that have been collected in years past, we're very, very interested in developing parks in Snohomish County. We're very interested in bringing the parks that you have and bringing them into the Bothell Park system and expanding them. One of the great things about Bothell is we have a really engaged Parks and Recreation Board. It's actually one of the most coveted seats in our city appointments. And one thing that we've done for some time is we said this isn't just for people who live in the city of Bothell, it's also for you people. It's for people who live in the planning area, for people who'd like to be part of the city of Bothell. And we did that with the idea that people who are in the annexation area are ultimately going to become citizens of the city of Bothell. And we want to have your input. And what the Parks Board does and what our city council does is something where we look out, we say, what do we do with our monies for parks? A great point you had is, look, you collect charges and you collect money that then goes away from this area. In the city of Bothell, we identify one-time revenues, like for example from home construction, not just parks facilities charges, but actually the construction sales tax dollars that go into building that house. And we say those have to be set aside then for capital projects. Things like building and acquiring parks, building facilities that are going to be important for our children and for the citizens in this area. And that's something that we've been very intentional about. And what we do is we look out 7 years and we say, what can we do as revenue comes in, if revenue goes up or revenue goes down on those projects? And so if you are a part of the city of Bothell, the parks that are currently developed by Snohomish County and new parks are going to be a priority for our city council. And the other thing is important, I think, a lot of people have said, well, if we're part of the city, how are we going to have a voice on an issue like parks? If this annexation passes, you are going to be essentially 1/3 of the city of Bothell. You're going to have an enormous voice in city affairs, and people, I've heard the phrase said, well, this will be a neglected part of the city of Bothell. I'll tell you, as an elected official, anywhere where there's 1/3 of the votes in the city is not going to be neglected. And I can promise you that. You're going to be well taken care of, and you're going to have you're going to have 7 members of the city council, all of whom you will vote for. We don't vote by districts in the city of Bothell. Every single member of the council has to run citywide. I live in the Snohomish County portion of Bothell. I'm very attentive to those needs, and that's something that I think you'll see when you come in, hopefully when you come into the city of Bothell.
James, while you're finding the next question, I just want to kind of follow up on what the mayor just said. One of the main reasons that I was attracted to the whole notion of annexation in the first place is because I love the idea that our property tax dollars will stay in a city of, after annexation, a city of 55,000 people as compared to being spread out over a county of 750,000 people. And as the mayor just said, I really like the idea of being able to vote for 7 members of the city council rather than just 1 member of the county council. So I think our political representation will be much increased.
I was just going to, and I do want to get back to the questions. I wanted to jump in as well. I think it's important in this debate when people are listening to both sides also to think about independent voices, people who don't have necessarily an immediate financial stake in this. Somebody might look at me and they say, well, you're the mayor of Bothell, of course you want annexation. Or they might look at somebody from a fire district and say, you know, you're in a fire district, of course you don't want annexation. One of the most, leaders in Snohomish County who represents the northern part is a county councilman. His name is John Koster, very strong anti-tax elected official, has come out in favor of this annexation, and that's a Snohomish County elected official saying it would be better for the people who live in the unincorporated areas of Snohomish County to be part of the city of Bothell than to remain in Snohomish County. John Koster does not have a dog in this fight. It would be much easier for him to stay out of this annexation election, but he's also somebody who's a person of principle and says, look, annexation means smaller government, lower taxes, and local control, and those are principles that he believes in. I think that's, if I were sitting where you're sitting, I would say, well, the fire districts have one thing, the city has another thing, but when you have voices that come who don't have a stake in this fight, who are willing to speak to you, I think those are voices I would pay close attention to.
Hi, my name is Kevin Van Hollebeck. I live just about a mile on the other side of Thrasher's Corner. And first off, just a comment, you guys seem to feel like you're getting a bad rap for holding a special election. I guess I'm one of those people who sort of disagrees with coming at it so quickly. I think anybody who loses election always feels like it's because the voters weren't given the proper information by the opposing side. And so you're not the first one to feel slighted. The other side, I think, feels like you guys have told some lies about them. So that's just the way politics is. I called the county auditor to find out what it would cost to hold a special election. They said it costs between $2 and $4 per voter when you hold a truly special election with only one item on the ballot. I was kind of surprised. I just assumed you'd have to, by statute, have to wait at least a calendar year to put it up for vote again. I thought November would be much better. Your voter turnout will be lower this year, and the perception by a lot of people is that that's why you're going now, because you want fewer people to vote on it. Now, I'm not accusing you of anything, but that's how people look at it. They look at it's a little bit of dirty pool to vote again. I mean, if you win, are we going to have a third playoff election? No, we're not. You're going to be the winner. Well, that's my statement. I'll get to my question. Okay, let's go to Station 22. I live about 3.5 minutes from Station 22. I live about 10.5 minutes from the downtown Bothell station. Now, you have said that your system is better to have the paramedic station down there and to come out from there to cover the whole area. Whereas Station 22, they've got a paramedic on duty staff there 24 hours a day. To my way of thinking, closer is better. Seconds lost are brain loss, or minutes lost is brain loss, the whole bit there. So you guys have said your system is better, but now you're saying, Station 22, we're going to switch and do it your way for 5 years, even though we feel it's an inferior way to do it. If you truly feel that your way is best, I would work at convincing us out here that your system is best, instead of capitulating and giving them what you think is going to be inferior service for 5 years. Now, you're promising it for 5 years. I assume, how many people do we have on the council? 7? I assume 3 or 4 of them are up for election in November. And then the others are going to be out in another 2.5 years. So before the 5 years is up, everybody could be replaced. It's only a promise. There's no redress if for some reason you guys pull it out of there before the 5 years, there's nothing we can do.
So I think I get your question. If you have more,
I got follow-up questions, but I'll keep it short.
Sure,
Go ahead.
Sure, you're welcome to have the follow-up questions. So the first point is why, I guess, why not wait on the election, or why not push the election out? I actually would disagree with your premise that this election is going to have less attention now than it would have were we to run it in November. In November, we have a presidential election, we have a gubernatorial election, we have an election for United States Senator, we have an election for all of our congressmen. Every single member of the State House of Representatives is up for election, and a significant portion of the state Senate is up for election, including the state senator who represents this district. So I think in November, the annexation would be the very last issue on the ballot. I think people were going to be, the argument that people are going to somehow not be paying attention. I guess
I'll make you a gentleman's bet of $1 that there'll be fewer votes this election.
I wouldn't accept the premise of that question. The second point would be, what do informed voters do? I think there's been a lot of attention now paid to this annexation question. This is people able to look at the annexation question exclusively. There's now been extensive third-party objective media coverage of this election, which was not present in the last, in November. There was some, but it was pretty late, and it didn't necessarily have the complete story. With respect to when people vote or don't, when people vote, there's a very low barrier to entry to voting in Washington State. You are mailed a ballot. All you need to do in this case is mark a single box, yes or no, put a stamp on it, and mail it back. It may be that less people vote. It may not be that less people vote. The one thing I can tell you with a metaphysical certainty is that the number of people voting had nothing to do with why this election is being called when it is.
Okay, my point is just that.
I listen to you and hear me. This has nothing to do with why this election is being held. Why it is being held at this time is we wanted people to be able to focus exclusively on the issue of annexation, so that there was nothing else that they were focusing on, and people could really hear all of the information and make the best decision. As to Station 22, which was your second question, that was something that the city of Bothell listened to people. I mean, if you, the premise, I think, of the question is that we would be adversarial with people, and you say, well, we're right and you're wrong with respect to Station 22. That isn't typically how elected or representative government works. People in the last election sincerely expressed a desire to have Station 22 open and staffed with paramedics. The city of Bothell actually absorbed that, listened to the people in that election, and changed our proposal as a result, and said, you know what, we didn't address Station 22. It's not true that we were going to close Station 2. We just didn't address it. And that became the flashpoint of the last election. They said, we want to have it there. We want to have it staffed with paramedics. We listened to the people. We actually even listened to Fire District 1. We had a Fire District 1 commissioner send a communication to our fire chief and said, we don't believe Bothell has put its money where its mouth is when it comes to Station 22. If you are going to keep Station 22 open, you need to put your money where your mouth is. So we put an interlocal agreement that commits to keeping Station 22 open for at least 5 years, and staffed with a firefighter paramedic. So I think we were responsive to the people in doing that. Fire District 1, we then said, look, why don't we just take this issue out of the election? You can sign that agreement, and then people who live in this area, like yourself, don't have to worry about Station 22. You could sign that agreement, and if annexation fails, Station 22 is secure for at least 5 years. If annexation passes, Station 22 is secure for at least 5 years. The city of Bothell executed that commitment. Fire District 1 rejected it and said, we're not interested in signing that commitment. So I think when it comes to the issue of Station 22, there's really no debate anymore. The city of Bothell has made a legally enforceable commitment that Fire District 1, who currently operates Station 22, has declined to make. That, and I'm not going to speculate as to why that is, but that's the reality of where we sit here tonight.
Are you saying on Station 22, you've signed a 5-year agreement with whom?
Well, I have a little bit of an unfair advantage here in that in my day job, I'm an attorney. So a contract requires 2 people to commit to it.
That's
we made
my
a
point.
commitment to the people of this area when we passed the resolution for annexation that Station 22 would be open for at least 5 years, and it would be staffed with firefighter paramedics. Fire District 1 said, well, that's just a legally binding resolution. That doesn't commit you to anything. So we said, okay, well, and we said, well, as you just pointed out, we can't contract with ourselves. So we said, all right, here's a contract. We've memorialized it in writing. Sign here, and we can take this issue off the table. And they declined to do that. So, I mean, I guess...
But they're a separate entity. They want to keep providing the service themselves rather than having to take it over.
No, hold on. It's important to understand, because I think it's an outstanding question. That agreement didn't prevent them. That was an agreement whether annexation passed or annexation failed. If annexation passed, the city of Bothell would commit to staff it for at least 5 years. If annexation failed, Fire District 1 would commit to staff it and keep it open for at least 5 years. We made that commitment. Fire District 1 declined to make that commitment. And
so
then,
I
actually want to say this because I think this is important. Fire District 1 of their commissioners then called, on that day of that meeting, called my law firm office and said, hey, I know you've been trying to reach me. Why don't you come to the meeting tonight and we can have that conversation? My wife was in the hospital having cancer surgery that day. And then at that meeting then tonight, they trumpeted it and they're like, well, no one is here from the city of Bothell. They didn't even bother to show up. If that's what it takes to convince people that you're on their side, okay, I guess. But the truth of the matter is, there is one party in this equation who has made a legally enforceable commitment to Station 22. It's the city of Bothell. It's not Fire District 1.
Okay, well, I won't take up more than 30 more seconds of your time. But in 5 years, Bothell will close Station 22, and there will not be a paramedic there. That's my prediction.
Well, in 6 months, Fire District 1 could close it because they haven't made a legal commitment. And if they join a regional fire authority, I think there may be a very good reason why they're not willing to make that commitment. If they join a regional fire authority, Station 22, how many calls do you think Station 22 has a day? On average.
You've got the figures. I don't.
It's in this. Actually, I didn't have the figures. I read it this morning in the Everett Herald. It's 2 calls a day. 2 calls a day. So if Fire District 1 joins up with a 350,000 person fire district, regional fire authority, a station that has 2 calls a day, there may be a reason why Fire District 1 is not willing to commit to even 6 months of operation of Station 22.
Yes, but you're also leaving out that if they close 22, the talk has been that they'll build another one near the Linwood High School, not that far away. So anyway,
then I don't think you and I disagree. I mean, I think we're saying the same thing.
Yes, but they want to staff. Their past history is they like to have a paramedic at the station. Yours has been not. You're promising to do it for 5 years, and that's noble. But after 5 years, it will be gone. Also, back to the election thing, and then I'll let you go. In November, only 2% of the people that voted did not vote on the annexation. Of the people that went to the ballot, only 2% did not. There will be fewer people that will vote on this election. I realize it gets mailed and it seems easy, but that's just the way it is. Also, as far as one last thing, and I'll go. 20 more seconds. I know, but I sat here for 20 minutes and listened to them. So just give me 20 more seconds.
No, you can have 20 more seconds. Go ahead.
20.
Go ahead.
I know. I realize that. I've got another meeting that started at 7 and I'm supposed to be at 2. So sorry about that. As far as being a grassroots organization, I looked up in November at the PDC forums. You had $2,500 came from Cam West. You had $25,000 that came from the King County Police and Fire Unions, and you had $130 came from the citizens of the annexed area.
Actually, so you're wrong.
Well, okay. Well, hold on. Let's go. I'll answer. I gave you 20 more seconds, and I'll answer the question. You said that 2% of the people didn't vote on the annexation area and the issue. 100% of the people who are voting on this annexation issue will be voting on the annexation issue because there's no other issues on the ballot.
I was just saying that
they're going to be focused on that issue. With respect to financing, I'm here to discuss the merits of whether or not it's a good policy decision and to answer questions about the city of Bothell. There are unions on both sides of this election who have given to both sides of the election. I think that's pretty unremarkable, and I think people who are in favor of annexation can point at the point of view that you have, sir, and say, it's 96% funded by unions. That's true. You can point and say, you know what, unions have given on the other side as well. That's also true. I think what we should focus on here is the issue of whether or not annexation is good public policy for the people who live in this area or bad public policy who live in the area.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
And like I say, I checked the PDC. If I read it wrong, I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. I just want to say something here. You're looking at the PDC from 2011.
Correct.
Actually, the FD1 and FD7 sued the Bothell King County Fire Department and stopped them from making any donations this year. So this year, there's none. So
Well, I think what, as I said before, I mean, I'm not here tonight to debate contributions. I think you would have to acknowledge, sir, that fire unions have contributed heavily to the No campaign. I would acknowledge that unions have given to the Yes campaign as well. I don't think that's what we're here to talk about. I think we're here to talk about whether or not annexation is a good idea or a
I
bad
know,
idea.
just that you point out grassroots, and just point out it's not as grassroots as it all thinks. So, thank you very much.
it's nice to have one more person.
Well, that was good in some ways. The reason I felt and say in some ways, I think people should ask one question, and then you can answer it, and then we can go to someone else. They're allowed to ask other questions, but I think everyone should get a turn.
Right there, James.
Eric Metzger, I live Danville, 198th area. My question is really about advanced life support. At what point will the city of Bothell actually start having that in all of their stations, the majority, so that they have a 4-minute basic life or 8-minute ALS?
Please put the mic up to your...
I think I for other people, yeah, I could hear you. I don't know that other people had
Okay.
heard you.
Would you repeat your question?
Sure, the question
Yeah, go
is as far as advanced life support and getting licensed as the city of Bothell. Is there a plan to do so and to live within that time frame of 8 minutes advanced life support, 4 minutes basic response time?
Well, I'm going to, with permission, we actually have someone on the Bothell City Council who was one of the people who created the Medic One system, and I distinctly am not that person. So, with your permission, sir, I'd like to invite Tom Agnew, who I think is in the back of the room, up to help answer your question.
Tom, where you are, can you please stand up?
Would you be okay with that, or actually, Tom's right there, so he can answer that. I think he'd be more informed than myself.
So your question, as I'm hearing it, is an ETA on advanced life support. I think with the city of Bothell listening to what the people said about Station 22 and staffing it with paramedics, you have a firefighter paramedic there, the ETA, and I'm just talking off the top of my head right now, shouldn't change dramatically at all in that area. District 10, it's going to be the same ETA that they have all along. With District 1, it should be the same ETA, and we're staffing 73s with firefighter paramedics, so you're going to have the same ETAs that you have right now. It shouldn't be any different at all with the advanced life support. Plus, they'll be backing it with a paramedic coming out of downtown Bothell. So you'll get one paramedic there within a few minutes, and then you got 2 paramedics that are coming that should be there within 8 to 10.
The other question was about getting licensed in the city of Bothell themselves versus contracting out. Bringing in paramedics from outside.
Hello?
I think all along that we've said to both locals with Snow 1 and Snow 7 that we'd be happy to pick up their firefighter paramedics that work in the area. Just go down the seniority list. As far as the licensing goes, you know, we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it, but we're definitely going to put some paramedics out there. I spent 30 years out here as a firefighter paramedic, and I understand what you're saying. And our goals have always been public safety, and we will not jeopardize that.
Someone else? There's a question? Oh.
He actually asked it.
Oh, okay.
This is a big issue.
I'll turn around here for a second, see if there's someone else that has a question.
James, can I pile on that question just for a second for clarification why Tom is hot on the answer? Some of the rhetoric I've heard at my house, and my wife got door knocked, is that we will not be able to get the license for our paramedics. And Fire District 1 firefighter assured me in the parking lot of the Bothell open house that they would be contacting the Snohomish County doctor that runs the medic program to stop any attempts by our fire department to get the license to practice in Snohomish County. Does any of that even sound plausible or reasonable? Because it didn't to me as a layperson, not being a firefighter, I wouldn't know.
Were people able to hear him?
That was difficult.
That was put to me?
Yeah, if you could answer that. I don't know if you Oh, thanks. You tune me out so often, I don't know if it was.
All the paramedics right now in both King County and Snohomish County are certified paramedics in the state of Washington. So it shouldn't be an issue. Right now, everybody's trying to go to regionalization, where when you call 911, you get the closest available unit. This shouldn't be an issue. You know, could it be? I hope not. Because let's not quibble over this one. This is all supposed to be about public safety.
Thank you, Tom.
Someone raise your hand real quick so I can see it. Thank you.
I'm Don Anderson. I live up on the west side of Thrasher's Corner. Our concern is zoning, existing zoning that we have as county compared to what the city will do. This could be a major effect on a lot of people, and we'd like some clarification on that.
Well, that's a great question. As part of the preparation for the annexation that happened following the petition that came into our city, we actually worked with our planning commission to go through and zone that entire area. And what we tried to do was to match the zoning that we had in Snohomish County that was on the ground and apply it into the city of Bothell. There was not an attempt to rezone or change that. But you now have a prospective zoning that you can go to in the city of Bothell, and you can ask, you can call up the city of Bothell Community Development Department. You can say, this is my address, this is my property tax number, what is going to be my zoning? What would I be able to do with my home? What would I be able to do with that? But our goal, and what we did when we first put it out there, was to have our zoning match what was in Snohomish County. Now, we have different development regulations. I'll be very upfront with you, but there's different development regulations in the city than there are in the county. But we're not hiding the ball at all. You can call our community development department. You can say, here's my address. I have 5 acres. If I were to subdivide, what would I have to do? That's out there. That's already been done and in place. And there's no intention, again, the intention was to make it match the zoning that you purchased your property in under Snohomish County.
My name's Tyler Allred. I live just between here and Thrasher's Corner. In your opinion, I seem to be getting cost issues that there's a lot of disparity. It's going to cost us more either way, is basically what I'm hearing. What is your interpretation of whether overall, out of pocket, if we're getting the same fire services, etc., are my yearly fees going to be higher or lower, including sales tax and everything else, big picture?
That's a great question, and I think it's important to understand the full truth of that question. So for the average homeowner in this area, the majority of homeowners in this area, you're going to see a substantial net tax cut. That is the truth, that's the reality, that's something you can go on the City of Bothell website and you can look under frequently asked questions and find that out. You can compare what your property taxes are at your current assessed valuation and compare them, take out your utility tax bill and compare it and see what that would be. And for the majority of homeowners, that's going to be a tax cut. It's important to understand, though, the details of that, because a lot of folks have said, if you come into Bothell, there will be more taxes. Well, it is true that currently, right now, the City of Bothell charges a utility tax, and the county does not charge a utility tax. It is also true that Snohomish County is lobbying currently to be able to impose a utility tax. But the discrepancy, the difference between your property taxes in Snohomish County in the fire districts and your property taxes in the City of Bothell is so large that it includes the utility taxes that are referred to. Sales taxes, you pay the same in the county as you do in the City of Bothell. There's not a difference on that. So the real difference is if you own your home, for the vast majority of people who own their home, this will be a tax cut. Now, we're not talking about a tax cut. I mean, this is not a $20,000 tax cut. The average person will save probably around $300. Another reason that is that we as a city have a preferred contract with Waste Management. If you at your residence have your garbage collected, you're going to save probably about $100 or $120 a year by being part of the City of Bothell contract than you are currently under the Snohomish County contract. So it's interesting because the No campaign has said repeatedly, like, if you come into Bothell, there'll be more fees, there'll be more fees, there'll be more taxes. But tonight, the treasurer of the No campaign acknowledged on Como, well, it's probably, we're probably about even. That's an interesting admission because that's not what's been said before. And tonight they acknowledge that it's probably about even. I think there's going to be a substantial, I think if you look at the services you get in terms of police, fire, local services, all of those taxes you pay are staying locally in your community. And if you're a homeowner, you're likely to get several $100s of property tax cut. I think overall that's the reality of the situation. So it's important to know. It's important to know about all those different moving parts because I think it's a very easy issue for people to kind of manipulate and throw out. Say like, well, there's all these fees, or if the fees don't get you, well, there's fees in Snohomish County too. You have fees where you live. There's taxes in Snohomish County. The property taxes are actually substantially higher in Snohomish County. So I really appreciate that question and appreciate an opportunity to provide some context and clarity.
And actually, I'd like to jump in here too because that's kind of one of my pet peeves. I remember I saw a flyer from the fire department that said, had a big picture of the fee table for the city of Bothell and the utility taxes for the city of Bothell. And with regard to the utility taxes, it was accurate. It showed that they were between 5% and 6%, but it didn't say a thing about the fact that property taxes were going to drop so much that the offset would be very much in people's favor. With regard to the fees, I didn't really know how to figure if that was correct or not. So basically, I looked at the fee table from the city of Bothell. Then I went to the Snohomish County fee table, and I looked up as many fees as I could, and I found that in general, as far as I could tell, the flyer was correct that it's going to cost you an extra $10 for a cat or a dog license. But otherwise, the fees were either the same or considerably higher in Snohomish County. And that's, there again, that's the kind of information is very easily verifiable by anybody who just jumps online and does a little research.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I can pretty well say it. We pretty well got sold out by King County or Snohomish County on Brightwater, which added a tremendous amount of cost to each homeowner in this area. My question to you is this: is it Bothell City's idea in the future to annex the Snohomish part of Bothell into King County?
I can promise you no. I live in Snohomish County. I do not want to be part of King County. I live in the Snohomish County portion of Bothell, and I can say that it is constitutionally it would be almost impossible for that to happen. And I can say, as the mayor of the city of Bothell, that will not happen. That's something I can promise you. That would never happen. And I don't want it to happen. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm an Alderwood water customer. I like being an Alderwood water customer. I'm a resident of Snohomish County. I like being a resident of Snohomish County. I identify with that. And my part of the city came in 1992. King County hasn't tried to take us over yet, and as long as I'm here and the people who are here in this room, it's not going to happen. To move county lines really requires an act of state government that is beyond the power of anything. Even if the city of Bothell wanted to, which I promise you it does not, it would require an act of the state, which I think is not going to happen. But I agree with you. Brightwater was not a good deal, and that was something that was foisted on us by King County.
I agree. I purposely bought on the Snohomish County line. First, I'd just like to say my name is Curtis Baker, and I've been kind of loud if you guys are online. From my personal experience, I was a no voter, and I felt kind of lied to. I felt kind of duped afterwards. It was like
once I started investigating, the first question I asked myself was, why was it so important to the fire department? Why? Well, I mean, what was all this fighting? What was all this tearing up of signs? What was all this hatred and vitriol? And when I started looking at it, I discovered that Bothell actually had to tell the truth. And that's what convinced me originally to switch. And when I first saw the no annex sign go back up in my neighborhood, I was like, what? and then I got a flyer in the mail from the city of Bothell that said, you know, there's another vote. And I was like, whoa, what happened? And I'm glad this is coming on again, because I have a chance to do it again and change my vote. So, that statement made, I would like to ask a couple people's questions, just for the sake of doing it. One of them I have written here is the sales tax credit. The big thing is that I hear people saying that you guys are just doing this to get a big sales tax boost. All this money is going to flow into Bothell's coffers for your Taj Mahal you're building in downtown Bothell. And another one, just a second question, I'll be done, is according to the Burke report, there was a recommendation of perhaps raising some more utility taxes, and that is being used to discredit Bothell's position also. So if you would address those two issues, please.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll take them in reverse order. First of all, the Burke report was a report that was commissioned to provide different scenarios under which annexation would happen. And the takeaway from the Burke report is that your area, the area that you live in, will pay for itself, that the tax revenue that's generated in this area will pay for the services that are provided to this area. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That's, as was alluded to earlier, a lot of money has left this area, a lot of capital money for parks and things like that, because you're part of a very, very large entity. And some areas don't have the assessed valuation that you do. Some areas don't have the resources that you do. So that's the takeaway of the Burke report. With respect to utility taxes, we have a limit as to what we can charge in utility taxes. Currently, the Bothell utility taxes are 6% and 5%. I'm proud that as mayor, we actually eliminated an entire category of utility taxes in the stormwater tax, which was double taxation. We took that away in 2007. The other thing that we've done on utility taxes that I'm proud of is we used to have a $50 credit for low-income seniors for utility taxes. We expanded that to $100. So if you're a low-income senior in this area, you can actually fill out that form and you can get $100 credit off of your utility taxes. For many people, that would be the entirety of their utility tax for a year. And that's something we did because we wanted to provide targeted tax relief to seniors who are on fixed incomes and were hurting. So I'm proud of our record on utility taxes, and nothing in the Burke report, the Burke report provides different scenarios. If things go badly, you raise taxes or you can lay people off. I think that's kind of government, 101. There's nothing remarkable about the Burke report, and there's nothing that suggests that scenario would happen in this case. The second issue has to do with a sales tax incentive. So I really appreciate you bringing this up, because I've heard a lot of people say that Bothell is just greedy. It wants this money. It needs this state sales tax money. And the truth of the matter is, who do you think that money is? Whose money is that? It's your money. It's your money. It's sales taxes collected in this area that currently is going to pay for the state of Washington, for their services, for stuff in Yakima and Wenatchee and Spokane. But because the Growth Management Act requires that cities annex areas, what they have said is, look, we're going to provide an incentive because there are startup costs. We're going to have to hire 21 uniformed officers, police officers, to patrol this area. We're going to have to hire them. There's 33 total police personnel, but 21 actual, uniformed police will be on patrol. We have to do that. Well, we have to hire those people, we have to train those people, we have to have them in the academy. We don't see $1 from this area while we're doing all of that stuff. So anybody, that's an argument you could make against any annexation. You'd be like, the annexation doesn't pay for itself. They're going to be in the red. Well, the state of Washington, in its sometimes wisdom, recognized that and said, you know what we'll do is we'll keep your local sales tax, a percentage of your local sales tax dollars here, and the city of Bothell is allowed to access that money to offset those startup costs. It's not permanent money. It's not money that goes on forever, and it's not money that we can use to build our capital facilities in downtown Bothell. That's just a misnomer. The financial plan that we have for those projects is something that's based on our revenue right now within the city of Bothell. Our realignment project and our gateway project is fully funded already. We've been very, very diligent about getting resources from that. And another really important point that's related to what you brought up is some people have said, look, if we come into the city of Bothell, we're going to have to take on all their debt, all of this capital debt. The capital debt we have right now consists of our police station. Our police station will be paid off, I think, in 2016 or 2017. You in this annexation area will not pay for one dime of that. Now, why is that? Well, because there's a trade. You're bringing in assets that you paid for as well. You're bringing in parks, you're bringing in roads, you're bringing in things that your tax dollars paid for over a long period of time. So what we decided as a city council, and we had the option, we could have said, you know what, if you don't pay for our police station, you come into the city of Bothell. But what we said is that's not fair because you're bringing in capital assets as well. So it's when you vote for annexation, you will not be assuming the bonded indebtedness of the city of Bothell. That's not on your ballot. And the reason it's not on your ballot is because we're not asking you to do it. We wanted this to be a clean question about whether or not you would come into the city of Bothell.
Good job, James.
So I live in the area that is in Edmonds School District, and with this loss in taxes or the cut, who takes that loss? You know, if there's say there's a $300 difference in my taxes, who loses that money? Is that Snohomish County, or does Bothell not need as much, or does somebody somewhere?
That's a great question, because I've gotten that a number of times where people are like, wait a minute, that sounds too good to be true. Like, my taxes are going to go down and my services will get better. The reason for that is that you currently are paying for 2 layers of government. You're paying for Snohomish County government to do your policing, to do your public works, to do your roads and streets, and you pay a tax for that. You pay a Snohomish County road tax. You then, on top of that, pay a fire district tax as well. So you're paying for all of the administration, all of the overhead, etc., for 2 different entities, both of which I might add are larger than the city of Bothell. They're very large entities that are going to have their own systems. There's basically a layer of duplication there. The city of Bothell is a small city. The city of Bothell is an efficient city. We've had our credit rating upgraded twice in the last 5 years. We're a city that prides ourselves on being a lean and efficient operation. And it's because there's 2 layers of government rather than simply one that we're able to provide you that saving. So the people directly answering it, you're no longer going to be paying a road tax to Snohomish County, and you'll no longer be paying a fire district tax to your fire district. There may be some remnant that's left over for capital projects in that, but I think that would be like 4 cents. It's not a significant portion of that for some of the fire districts.
Well, we still need money for roads, though, and we still need money for fire department. So there's still a discrepancy of some sort.
Well, yeah. No, to be clear, because I must not have explained myself. The money that then you'll be paying will be going into the city of Bothell. The city of Bothell provides roads. The city of Bothell provides a fire department. The city of Bothell provides a police department. So we just provide it in a more efficient manner. So you will be paying for roads, you'll be paying for fire, you'll be paying for police. You're simply going to be paying that to the city of Bothell, rather than you'll be paying it to one agency to provide those services, rather than the 2 agencies you currently pay to provide that service in Snohomish County and the fire district. Does that make?
Yeah, it makes a little bit of sense, I guess. I mean, if it's an efficiency thing, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially have 2 layers of government being replaced by 1 layer of government to provide the same level of services.
In the Edmonds School District right now, I know that there's kind of a struggle for funding and there's a lot of cutbacks. And the Edmonds School District covers 3 cities and Snohomish County. So when they take the portion that I live in out of Snohomish County, how would that affect school districts like the Edmond School District?
Well, that is a great question. You're not going to leave Snohomish County, and you're not going to leave the Edmond School District.
But the funding now goes to Bothell, or is it already allocated to certain?
Well, no, I really appreciate you asking that question, because the funding, you pay a separate funding to the Edmond School District. So your property tax that you pay to the Edmond School District will not change. That will still go to the Edmond School District.
The dollar is the same.
The dollar is the same to Edmond. What is going to happen is that, let's divide it into $3. $1 to Snohomish County, $1 to the Edmond School District, and $1 to the Fire District. Your $1, and I know it's not a dollar, will keep going to the Edmond School District. The $2 that you used to pay to Snohomish County and the Fire District will now be, let's say, $1.90, and you'll be paying that to Bothell instead. Does that make sense now?
That makes sense.
Okay, yeah. So, but you're not leaving Snohomish County, and you won't be leaving the Edmond School
I
District.
understand that. I'm just curious about it more than anything.
Yeah, and the county, Snohomish County doesn't control how education funding. That's done separately through, and you pay a tax for that directly to that school district.
Is there a discussed plan at all to contract with Snohomish County Sheriff, or is Bothell going to, at day one, contract directly and cover that area? What's the contingency plan there?
Bothell is going to be, we have our own police station, and we have our own police force, and we are not going to.
But at day one of annexation.
Well, day one, and to be clear, that's a great question. Day one of annexation, I think our police chief here?
Police chief.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to recognize Mike Johnson from our police department, and he can answer that more in detail than I can.
The question was, are we taking over service day one?
Yeah. What's the transition plan?
Yeah, the transition plan for the police department is day one. So if the annexation vote passes in the next couple of weeks, and the mayor says, "Hey, January 1, we're going live with all the services Bothell can bring to bear to the annexation area," the police department is prepared. We have a plan to put in place to start patrolling your area.
Is that involve Snohomish County officers, or Bothell has to hire new officers, or they acquire Snohomish County officers?
There will be some hiring of new officers. The annexation at this point, to my recollection, Captain Wolverton, is that this annexation into the Newbie area does not, to the best of my knowledge, displace any Snohomish County deputies. There will be no layoffs triggered by this particular annexation. If there were layoffs, hypothetically, Snohomish County Sheriff's Office says, as a result of this, we have to lay off 4 people. By law, we have to look at those deputies first and give them hiring priority. And why wouldn't we? If they're already policing that area, why wouldn't we want to hire them? They're already trained, they wouldn't have to go to the academy. However, this does not appear to fit that. It doesn't look like we'll need to. If they want to come apply with us, that's fine. We'll be looking at hiring 21 or 22 new officers and bring them on in phases, starting with laterals, which will be trained up by the time the annexation goes. So
the implication is that Snohomish County has an excess of officers?
No, that's not the implication. The implication is that Snohomish County is running really thin. Snohomish County Sheriff's Office is... They can. Snohomish County Sheriff's Office has authorized 250 or so positions. They're currently running with about 210. They're enjoying the salary savings of about 40 positions. So, in theory, this is not displacing any of those people because they're already running short. The annexation area is a very small portion of 2 separate Snohomish County patrol districts. Snohomish County currently doesn't have enough deputies running out of Mill Creek Precinct to staff both of those districts every shift. They try to, that's their goal, but it's not feasible. So there are some days where those 2 districts are combined to 1 deputy. So that is an immense amount of square miles and a very high population for 1, sometimes 2 deputies to patrol. So what they do is they just move that line north. The deputy that patrols that area just has a little bit smaller space to patrol. And we are going to incorporate that area into 3 patrol districts for that small portion of what is now 2 very large districts. And one of them is intentionally kept very small to allow that patrol officer to be more nimble and free and not tied up on calls to be out proactively policing the area. So it's a pretty comprehensive plan. I talked to you at one of the open houses. I'd love to talk with you afterwards more. But I can guarantee day one, Bothell cars out on those streets, responding to the calls. And one more quick sort of misnomer that I've heard I got in a piece of mail at my house is that Snohomish County Sheriff's is conveniently situated in the Mill Creek precinct to easily and conveniently respond to all the calls in the annexation area. Keep in mind that is, I don't want to mislead and I don't want that to mislead. No cops really respond from their stations. The Snohomish County deputies are not sitting in downtown Mill Creek at the station drinking coffee, typing on a computer. They're out in their... What? Yeah, but again, I'm not here to talk about anything that they have going on with their department that's not good. What I'm here to talk about is the factual picture. The deputies are out in cars going from call to call to call because they are spread a little bit more thin than us and they're pretty busy. They're on calls a lot. Bothell officers, again, aren't routinely responding from the station. We're not firefighters. So there are times when we're on administrative tasks and we do respond from the station, but for the most part, most cops, whether it's Kirkland, Bothell, Snohomish County, we're out in our cars in what's called patrol districts, and we try to break those down geographically to be close to the edges of the city. I've heard a lot about Bothell cops will always be coming from King County. Not true. Most of our cops spend a great part of their day in Canyon Park because that's where a lot of stuff is going on. We also have a North End workstation in the Public Works facility up behind Red Robin where a lot of our officers will go to do their day-to-day administrative tasks. So they are, even if they're on administrative tasks, they would still be conveniently located to respond to the Nuba area.
So back what you're saying, the response time now from Snohomish County is not for police. We live just off Elder Drive, and a few times there's been calls. Maybe there may or may not been a neighbor acting out of line. And anyhow, 7, 10, 12, 20 minutes later, we had a predator sitting across our street with pornographic materials. I've got 2 young children, and 20 minutes before they showed up. And to me, that's a pretty big deal. So to answer your question, just from a citizen's point of view, the response time now is important. If we can get 20 more police officers patrolling our area, that's my kids are sitting there.
What you'd have is 3 patrol districts making up the Nuba area and a little bit of what is not Nuba. It's a little bit of Thrasher's Corner now. So, but I don't want to mislead anybody. Some of that is outside of their control. Snohomish County deputies are great guys and they try really hard to do a good job. They get the same training we get, and some of them are a couple of my closest friends. But they are spread really thin. There are times, anecdotally, that they're going to be 1 minute away. So that's luck of the draw. They may be 1 minute away, but they could be 30 minutes away. The farthest we would be away is hypothetically if there was some big violent, gang fight at Stonehenge Apartments, which is down Minglemore High School. You could theoretically have all of the Bothell cops down by Stonehenge High School. Now Minglemore High School. Now that would be a pretty big call to tie up all of our cops. Most of the time on day-to-day operations, we try very hard to keep our guys spread out. So the response time would normally be less. Now, nobody keeps response times the same way. It's very difficult for me to stand there and say our response times are better than Snohomish County's because they track them probably different than we do. Some track from the time the call comes in, some track it from when the first officer is en route, and some stop it when the first officer gets there, some stops it when the last officer gets there. So I don't want to mislead anybody and say we're definitely better. Anecdotally, I can say living in Nuba and having had to call the police before, yeah, I can say that our guys will most likely get to your call quicker. On a side note for me, I've had to call Briar Police because they get there faster. So yeah, I know what you mean. I have a dead-end street behind my house.
They're very helpful and great guys. I wasn't taking a shot at the Snohomish County Police to the Sheriff's Office. It's just the fact that they're involved.
It is not the Sheriff's Office fault, and John Luck does a good job trying to do the best he can with a stretched dollar, but they're responsible for a lot of area, and they don't have a lot of money. And as the mayor has said, we've done a pretty good job over the years keeping up with our dollars, and so yeah, I think we'd be very quick. But I would love to talk to you more.
I see someone else has got a question, so.
This ties in with the last discussion. Last summer on 39th, we had 3 teenage kids that were vandalizing the neighborhood. We called 911, and they told us that they were short-staffed and they were only addressing life-threatening issues that evening. Can you tell me, has that ever happened with the city of Bothell? Have you ever been so short-staffed that you could only handle life-threatening emergencies?
Not on a long-term basis. There are times, like I said, if we have 6 cars working and there's a bank robbery, for about a 10 or 15 minute window, we may be pretty busy. But we free up cars really quickly. We don't have a tiered response system. Snohomish County Sheriff's Office has a tiered response system that their sergeants can implement where they tell dispatch, no matter what the call is, if it's not in progress, we don't go. Now, they don't implement that very often, but it is something they have built into their system, and we just don't. We don't have a mail-out report form. If you call Bothell Police Department, we try and get out to your house, unless you say I want a phone report because I'm ratting out my neighbor and I don't want him to see a patrol car in front of my house. Then we are polite enough to call on the phone, but for the most part, our day is not so packed together that we can't come out to your car prowl and take some fingerprints. We can come out and do some investigation. If there's kids vandalizing the neighborhood, we take photographs of that kind of stuff, graffiti and gang tags, and we save it in a database. And we try and match up suspects when we get them. So we do take pride in how we police. We police small town. We take time with our citizens, and we do the best we can.
Hi, my name's Eric Johnson. I live west of Canyon Park, 14th Avenue West, north of 228th. My question is, we've been told that the street, 14th Avenue West, is not going to get extended, and then we're told it was going to get extended, and now it doesn't look like it's going to for now. Would Bothell extend that? And I guess what's your process for extending roads, and how do the citizens get involved? And I guess my second question is, what's different between what Bothell's offering now in this election versus the previous one? We've heard some change of position. You could just summarize that. That'd be great.
I really appreciate that. First of all, I don't know the specifics of the 14th Avenue thing. I can't say that where there are times of streets being extended. We have a system in Bothell where for all of our capital expenses, we reach out to people in neighborhoods. We have a traffic calming fund, and we also have a capital facilities process that when we're doing roads, we reach out to neighborhoods and we include them in that conversation. So what you could do if this was something that was important to you and you're part of the city of Bothell is come into the city as part of that capital facilities plan and say, I want to have this road extension put on there. We have a lot of projects that are on there. You'd sit down with either your councilman or somebody in the public works department. We'd evaluate that proposal, and then you would be able to have people come in and do that. And again, if you and your neighbors support it, and that's a priority for you, that's something that the city of Bothell is going to endeavor to support because we represent you. The second question is what was different, what's different now than before? The primary difference has to do with the stations, and that we didn't, it's been a misstatement of fact to say that Station 22 was going to be closed. That's not accurate. We just didn't address Station 22. We said, you know what, we have our fire coverage right now set up to our borders, and what we will do is work to accommodate those different areas and to have those different places work in, and we'll have a collaborative agreement with the fire districts. In this election, what we have done is we've committed to keeping Station 22 open and staffed with firefighter paramedics. So that is a different thing. That's a qualitative difference between the election vote this year and the election vote last November. And again, that was in direct response to what we heard from voters. That people came back to us and said, look, this is something that's really, really important for us and something that we want you as a city to listen to. And we didn't just kind of run the exact same thing again. We said, okay, that was something that we heard. We understood that people were concerned about that. And again, this evening, before I came to this meeting, we had a Bothell City Council meeting where we approved an interlocal agreement with Snohomish Fire District 7, which in this case will actually keep Fire Station 73. It will bring that into the city of Bothell. That'll be a city of Bothell station. Will help District 7 patrol some of their area, and we're going to keep that, that station now will be an asset of the city of Bothell, and we're going to protect those jobs and protect the people who live near there. So those are two differences. But you had a follow-up?
Well, I guess you were going to staff one station for some days and the other station the other days, but they would cover the same area in both cases. Is that the Station 73?
The station 73, yes, that is the station we're talking about. Now, that station 73 is our station, so that's not the case now. I mean, that would be another qualitative difference in this plan. Now, this is going to be our station. This is our station. We're going to be staffing it. We're going to be taking over jobs from Fire District 7. So there are firefighters who are concerned about displacement. We've addressed that concern, and that station now will be an asset of the city of Bothell. You know, interestingly, that station is actually across the street outside of the city limits of the city of Bothell. So as part of our agreement with Fire District 7, we're going to be helping them patrol their area as well, and we're going to be keeping that station in place. So the brown, that's another difference, and I appreciate you pointing that out. That's a distinction between the proposal last November and the proposal that you'll be voting on April 17th.
You missed something. I was at the District 7 meeting this morning, and the fire commissioners said in the agreement that you would run it 24/7. You didn't mention that.
That is true, and that's another difference between the agreement of last November and this one.
Both stations will be 24/7.
Yes.
I don't know how important it is to you to know this piece of what's different, but it is to a lot of us, and that is that we felt like there was just so much misinformation and disinformation last time around that, for me, one of the most important differences between this campaign and the last campaign is the opportunity for us to get out and actually set the record straight. Make sure people understand that a lot of the things I heard last time just weren't true.
I think there was a gentleman in the back who had a question as well. Is that you still?
There's a couple of people. Okay, I'll get back to you. I'm sorry.
I just seen his hand a couple of different. There was a guy on the left. I just seen his hand a couple of times.
Hi, my name is Pat Ryan. I live just by Thrasher's Corner. What will this do to Superior Courts, and since there'd be more people in the King County or Snohomish County portion of Bothell than King County? Does that change anything in jurisdictions for civil suits and things like that?
That's a great question, and probably one of the only questions that I'm sort of uniquely qualified to answer. The Superior Court is still, because of my day job, Superior Court, it doesn't change anything in terms of that. It'll be Superior Court. If your civil suit lies in Snohomish County, it'll be heard in Snohomish County Superior Court. If it lies in King County, which it wouldn't because of where you live, then it would be heard in King County. But all civil suits north of the Snohomish County line are heard in Snohomish County. All civil suits south of the Snohomish County line are heard in King County.
How about criminal?
Criminal, it depends on where you're, again, that's a misdemeanor. If you're talking about felonies, if you're arrested, it's where the crime occurs. So you're going to be charged, if you're arrested in Snohomish County, you're going to be charged in Snohomish County.
So Bothell's going to be split between both counties for that kind of thing?
It is currently, and that's an interesting, we don't have our city attorney here. I mean, that is with Superior Court cases, that doesn't present as much of an issue. With municipal court cases, we've had one instance where that was challenging because the person wanted to have a jury of his peers, which he insisted was members of his own county, and we had a mixed jury. So we have to have juries for municipal cases where you have, just one county or the other. But in terms of criminal matters that crimes that occur in Snohomish County are heard in Snohomish County. Crimes that occur in King County are heard in King County. But again, that's true whether you were annexed or not. I mean, those cases are heard in Snohomish County in those criminal matters. King County, they're heard in King County. But Mike Johnson, I probably said something wrong. Mike knows better, so
no,
Mike, go
right
ahead.
on the money. I just want to clarify one thing. The mayor is unique qualified as an attorney, but gross misdemeanor and misdemeanor crimes would all be heard in the city of Bothell courthouse. The advantage to that is you don't have to drive to Everett or Linwood or Monroe to go to a district court. If you live in the city of Bothell and your neighbor damages your car and you're the victim, you would go to the Bothell court where we don't pay for parking, we have our own local prosecutor. And there's an advantage here. Our prosecutor works in the police department. Her office is right there off the lobby. Currently, right now, with Snohomish County prosecutors, even for misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor crimes, if we were to file one, they look at it with a very different eye than the Bothell prosecutor does, because they're really, really, really busy. And our prosecutor, she's busy, but she's great. She is hungry to prosecute crime. That has not turned down a case. Whereas in Snohomish County, you may have a case that's very important to you, but the prosecutor may say, we're just too busy to file that. We're sorry. In Bothell, that rarely happens. And they're not for reasons that we're too busy. It's for legal sufficiency. So all misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor crimes that occur within the city limits, wherever they end up being, all those cases go to the Bothell Municipal Court, which is in right downtown Bothell. So it has no deference to the county.
Yeah, this is for the mayor. You explained that for the average single-family homeowner, taxes would go down somewhat. Will annexation into Bothell affect the assessment process in general? The rules and principles by which land is assessed for taxation purposes?
It will not. I mean, for example, I live in the Snohomish County portion of Bothell. My assessment comes from the Snohomish County assessor. And so the comparison still comes, you know, if I get an assessment I don't like, I complain and I say it's not similar. You know, other homes were sold and they were similar to my home and they had a similar valuation. And I think I'm being assessed too high.
Okay, that's what I thought, and I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I appreciate that.
The next question. With regard to the implementation of rules regarding septic and drainage, detention ponds, for example, the kinds of things that the county currently administers and regulates, will Bothell be assuming the regulatory responsibilities for that?
I'm really glad that you asked that question. We've gotten a lot of questions about sewer and septic. Alderwood Water serves this area. So if you are currently on septic and you want to stay on septic, you can have that. I actually serve on the Snohomish Health District, which has the regulatory authority over those matters. That will still have the regulatory authority over those matters.
Okay, Bothell's not going to take that on.
Bothell's not going to take that over. No.
Okay, and what about the administration of wells, for example?
The administration of wells, as I understand it, is still going to be a function of the Snohomish Health District or Alderwood Water.
Okay.
Yeah. But those are great questions, and those are ones that we get up a lot.
I'll give you next, but he had his hand up, I saw first, so go ahead and then you're next.
Yeah, Todd Johnson, I live in the Canyon Ridge area. I wanted to follow up on this gentleman's question over here about the streets being punched through. I talked with people down in that 14th Avenue area, and there's some cul-de-sacs that butt up to another one. They don't go through. They were told that if it gets annexed in, Bothell's going to come through and punch those all in. And 14th Avenue, where it dead ends into a wetland. And they were told that Bothell's going to punch through that wetland. Is that true or false?
That's not true, no. That's false. I appreciate that question. Bothell has a policy of, with respect to traffic calming, to try and direct traffic to arterials. And so we actually have a policy against, which some of our fire guys don't like, against punching through, against connectivity when it comes to streets like that. So if you're on a quiet cul-de-sac residential street, in the comprehensive plan of Bothell, it discourages the idea of having punch-throughs because we don't want to have cut-through traffic in the neighborhoods. That's something when I go doorbelling, I hear about all the time, and people are like, I don't want to have cut-through traffic. And we actually set up a traffic calming program within the city where people can apply for money to say, look, you know, people are coming through our neighborhood and we want to have speed bumps, we want to have something like that. And there's a pool of money that we set aside as a council for neighborhoods, which if you come into the city, you'll be able to access to address those kinds of concerns. But I really appreciate that question.
My name is Scott Nunes. I spend way too much time on the Facebook Bothell Yes sites. I have a question that I want to ask on behalf of one of the Bothell No folks on the website. I think it's a good question. The fire stuff has come up over and over and over.
Are they live blogging this event? Or
You may not know. You may not want to.
I wouldn't put it past, but I think it's a good question. About 90%, I'd say, of the questions on that site are about fire station stuff. So, and I thought this was a good one. So I thought I'd ask it of you, Mayor Lamb. Of course, I just lost it. Hold on one second. Sorry, just please hold.
Walker wanted to say something. This is my son Walker wanted to say something before while Scott's looking for the question.
Are we sure we're going to do this? Because if we want to change our mind, then we're not going to have it. We're not going to probably have this again. So we better make sure we're actually going to make sure that we're clear what we're going to do.
Good. Walker took the question right out of the
Yeah, that was. Back to the fire question, Scott. Go ahead.
Okay, I found it here. So if Bothell Fire takes over 73 and 22, only brings over 14 firefighters and keeps their staffing same at their current, the 30 stations, sorry, the English is a little messed up, and keeps the staffing the same at their current stations, then the service level will not be the same. So I guess what they're saying is there'll be not enough people to staff the stations that are being taken over in addition to what's already being staffed.
Was it say that 14 would be laid off or something?
Yeah, so I'll speak to those questions.
I'm sorry if that wasn't super clear.
No, that's okay. I mean, with respect to Station 73, we now have perfect clarity. We have an interlocal agreement with Fire District 7 that was just announced today that will deal with the staffing of that station. It's going to be staffed by us, it's going to be taken care of by us, and the jobs that are at issue are going to be protected. With respect to Station 22, we have committed to staffing that with firefighter paramedics and keeping that station open 24/7. So we're going to staff that in a way that is consistent with that. What I can't speak to is with respect to layoffs, and which I think is really what's driving the question that you're asking, is that Fire District 1 announced 4 layoffs in January. They eliminated 9 positions immediately following the election back in November of 2011. So I can't speak to what they're, who's going to lose jobs in Fire District 1 because I don't run Fire District 1. That's not my job. They're laying people, I know that they have given off layoff notices. I know they eliminated positions in November, and they said they were going to eliminate additional positions in January. I can't speak to what I can speak to is that we will take that station, we will staff it. We will staff it in a way that includes paramedics and that will not in any way diminish, and I would argue would probably even enhance the service that people in that area receive.
I think that's the underlying question is, how will Bothell, with, sounds like fewer boots on the ground, maintain the same service levels that exist today? And I see that question over and over again.
Yeah, I guess I would dispute. I mean, their claim is, the claim is that it takes 33 people to staff 2 stations. I'm not sure that that's accurate, and I think when you look at, and I think that I'll be blunt, I think that there's a time where if your organization is financially going through a difficult time, it's probably in their incentive to attribute as many jobs as possible to the annexation in terms of job loss, because we're obligated under state law, as was indicated earlier, to give preferential treatment to displaced firefighters. So they've announced they're laying people off. The annexation is impending. There's every incentive to say we would have to lay off 60 people if the annexation goes forward, and they're going to have to take all of them. They've already said that the way that Fire District 1 is going, they want to be part of a regional fire authority. They're going to be making adjustments to their staffing models, and frankly, they're going to be making adjustments to where their stations are, most likely. What we're going to be doing is saying we're going to take care of those stations, we're going to take care of those people to the extent we can. Fire District 7 came to the table, we got an agreement, we take care of those people. And I think that we'll address that issue as it comes along, but I can't speak to what they're going to do because I don't run Fire District 1. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the personnel.
I can add a couple things. One, the 9 positions that were removed from Fire District 1 2 days after the election, they point out, and this is true as far as I know, they were not firefighters, meaning it does not affect level of service. They were administrative positions as far as I know. So that's point 1. And then the other one is I was at the Fire District 7 meeting this morning with the fire commissioners when they made their decision to sign the ILA with Bothell. And what they explained, and I did not know this before this morning, was that they would need to close Station 73, that's the station over here on 45th, within a year or 2. Now, I also want to be clear, because there was someone from the union that said that perhaps it would only be closed for a temporary amount of time, and that as property values went back up, they could then perhaps open it again. Their response was that that is not the perfect spot for them. They would likely want to have it in a different location. That's all I have is from this morning, so I don't have the details. But I wanted to make sure that we kind of got that complete story. I don't want to think, okay, they laid off 9 firefighters 2 days after the election. I want to get the whole story out.
Can I add just a little bit of commentary? I know I'm not the A in the Q&A, but I respect the fact that no firefighters were laid off, and I respect the fact that in economic tough times, 9 people had to be let go. Some of them were part of natural attrition. That's great, right? Those are responsible moves to make. It made me think of two things, though. Number one, this has been categorized as, oh, we just, cut some of the fat off so we don't have to, get rid of the firefighters. Well, what are they doing running with fat anyway? I mean, it's supposed to be like a highly efficient, body and organization that's running as efficiently as possible because they're using our money. So that was of concern to me. And the other part that's concern to me, and again, I know I'm not the A here, but this is what I want to say, is, it's all well when you, take the meringue off, if you will, but at some point you're going to get the lemon, right? At some point, those firefighters are the next ones, and there's no sign that I could see, per the fire district's own PowerPoint, of financial recovery. So I worry about the trend that's been spelled out there.
I was at the Fire District 1 budget meeting, and you were right, there's a trend that more layoffs are to follow. I don't know how large, they don't know either. They said that they're planning ahead. That said, they also would expect that trend to turn around once the values of houses go up. The advantage, as I understand it, and Mark Lamb can correct me, is that Bothell gets its taxes from 3 different sources: sales tax, property tax, and this utility tax. The fire departments in the county are required, because I asked them to change how they tax themselves. They said they don't have a choice. They are required to tax only by property tax. So you have all your eggs, unfortunately, in one basket. And so when property values go down, even if the economy's starting to do better, if the housing values still go down, that impacts their revenue.
And that goes back to a question of assessment as well, and that you're only assessed once a year. So when recovery, when economic recovery begins and when home values rise, it's only adjusted once a year. So that can bring it back.
So with the taxes now being allocated towards Bothell, how does that affect Snohomish County for things like, Supreme Court and correctional facilities and jails and all these things that are supported, that are already kind of in the tank? Does that affect them negatively? And that's something that we rely on. Even as citizens of Bothell, we will rely on the county for those things.
Sure, and your county road tax is going to go away because we'll be taking over those roads to do it. Snohomish County has an interlocal agreement with the city of Bothell, and Snohomish County is not opposing this annexation. What we've worked out is an agreement to transition those services, to work collaboratively with them to do that. The question really is how you pay for services and whether or not your dollars are going to be staying locally in a city where we provide the same services that the county does, or if they're going to be going up to that. You will still pay taxes to the county. You'll still pay a property tax to the county for the operation, for the items that you talked about before. When you buy items at a store, if you're in the county, you're still going to be paying sales tax to Snohomish County. I, for example, spend a lot of time spending money at Costco. Costco is in unincorporated, the one that I go to is in unincorporated Snohomish County. All of the sales tax revenue, or not all of it, but the portion that would go to the city, where it in the city of Bothell, goes to Snohomish County. So you still be paying a property tax to the county, you're just not going to be paying the county road tax.
Well, if Snohomish County loses, let's say, 30,000 households? Or 30,000
22,000 people, yeah.
22,000. So they lose that revenue, but they still keep the same amount of police officers because none are laid off. They keep the same amount of firefighters because none are laid off.
But yeah, and Snohomish County doesn't run the firefight. Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, Snohomish County doesn't run the fire departments.
But it funds those districts.
Actually, those districts fund themselves by direct taxation of people who live in those districts.
In that area.
Yeah. So those fire districts, and that's a fair question. Those fire districts say, we're going to be losing